Welcome, curious minds. Did you know that many of the things we use daily were born from the creative minds of American inventors? That's right. From light bulbs to potato chips, these brilliant inventors shaped the world we live in. So buckle up, because here are 101 captivating facts about American inventors that will blow your mind. Let's start with one of the most famous names in history. 1. We all know Thomas Edison as the inventor of the light bulb, right? But what most people don't realize is that he also held over 1,000 patents. Edison wasn't just about light, he was about all kinds of bright ideas. 2. The inflatable life raft, which has saved countless lives at sea, was invented by American inventor Peter Marcus in 1916. His design allowed for quick and easy deployment in emergencies. 3. Here's a shocker. Henry Ford didn't invent the automobile. Nope. What he did invent was the assembly line process that made cars affordable for ordinary people. Imagine driving around town in 1908 thinking, yeah, I'm fancy now. And here's a fun one. The first automobile was invented in 1885 by Carl Benz, but Ford made it something the average Joe could afford. Go figure. 5. Did you know the first sewing machine was invented by Elias Howe? No, not Singer. Singer made it popular, but Howe got there first, and honestly, sewing by hand? Hard pass. 6th. Fun fact. Howe's inspiration for the sewing machine needle came from, get this, a dream where he was being attacked by cannibals. I guess nightmares can lead to great inventions. 7. You've heard of Alexander Graham Bell, the man who invented the telephone. But did you know his mother and wife were both deaf? His passion for sound technology was deeply personal. Makes you appreciate those hello moments a bit more. 8. And here's a twist. Bell saw the telephone as a distraction from his real work on hearing aids. Imagine creating the telephone and being like, hey, this is just a side project. 9. Let's not forget about George Washington Carver. This guy didn't invent peanut butter, but he did develop over 300 uses for peanuts, including peanut soap. I mean, would you wash your face with peanut butter? Probably not the chunky kind, right? 10. Carver's genius wasn't just with peanuts. He helped revolutionize Southern agriculture by promoting crop rotation and sustainable farming. Smart, right? 11. The modern bra was invented by American socialite Mary Phelps Jacob in 1914. Tired of the discomfort of corsets, she designed a more practical and comfortable undergarment that transformed women's fashion. 12. Now here's one for the bookworms. The inventor of the modern typewriter, Christopher Sholes, also co-invented the QWERTY keyboard. Yes, that keyboard you're typing on. Imagine inventing something we literally still use every day. Talk about leaving a legacy. 13. The retractable ballpoint pen, a writing tool we all use, was created by American inventor Franz Seitz in 1950. His invention made writing more convenient and less messy by allowing the pen tip to be hidden when not in use. 14. For the eco-conscious, the solar water heater was patented by Clarence Kemp in 1891. His invention was one of the first major steps in renewable energy, harnessing the sun's power for everyday use. 15. One of the most iconic American inventions, the airplane, was, of course, invented by the Wright brothers. But did you know their dad thought the idea of human flight was foolish? Imagine telling your kids they can't do something and they go on to invent planes. 16. Speaking of flying, the original planes didn't have seats. Ouch. It wasn't until later that seats were added to make flying, well, slightly less painful. 17. Here's an inventor who really made a splash. Jacques Cousteau co-invented the aqualung, the precursor to modern scuba gear. It allowed humans to breathe underwater, making it possible to explore the ocean depths. If you've ever gone scuba diving, you can thank him for not having to hold your breath the whole time. 18. Fun twist. Cousteau was inspired by, wait for it, fish. So next time you're underwater, just remember, you're kind of doing a fish impression. 19. Speaking of the deep, did you know the first submarine was invented by an American named David Bushnell? It was called the Turtle. And no, it didn't move as fast as a real one. 20. The turtle was used during the American Revolutionary War, but it wasn't very successful. Maybe they should have tried swimming instead. 21. Have you ever used a vacuum cleaner? Well, you can thank James Spangler, who invented the first practical vacuum in 1907. His invention led to the creation of the Hoover brand. And yes, the chore of vacuuming was forever born. Thanks, I guess. 22. Here's a big one. Willis Carrier invented air conditioning in 1902. That's right. We wouldn't have summer without him. Or rather, we wouldn't survive summer without him. 23rd. Air conditioning was originally designed to help factories keep their products from warping in the heat. But now we can all enjoy a cool breeze indoors, so thank you, Mr. Carrier. We're not even halfway through, and there are already so many incredible inventions to talk about. Which ones surprised you so far? Comment below and let us know. Now, let's jump back in. 24. The first answering machine was invented by American William Mueller in 1949. His invention allowed people to leave and receive messages without being home, a precursor to voicemail. 25. Speaking of upward movement, the elevator brake was invented by Elisha Otis in 1852, making skyscrapers possible. Before his invention, elevators were considered too dangerous for people. No Otis, no high-rise apartments. Now that's a tall order. 26. The pacemaker, a device that helps regulate heartbeats, was co-invented by an American engineer named Wilson Greatbatch in 1958. He actually discovered it by accident when he installed the wrong type of resistor in a circuit. Sometimes even mistakes can save lives. 27. Here's one that's out of this world. The spacesuit that astronauts wear was developed by a team of American engineers at NASA. These suits protect astronauts from the harsh conditions of space. Imagine taking your next walk on the moon. 28th. Now, let's talk about the television. Philo Farnsworth, a teenage inventor, created the first fully electronic television system in 1927. He even sketched his initial ideas for it on his high school chalkboard. I mean, what were you doing in high school? 29. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. He had to fight RCA for years over patent rights. Good thing he won, because who could imagine life without TV? And speaking of television, the remote control was invented by Robert Adler in 1956. His original model was called the Zenith Space Command, and it changed the channel by emitting ultrasonic sound waves. So if you've ever found yourself saying, "Where's the remote?" Now you know who to thank. 31st. Fun fact, early remotes didn't just change the channel. They could turn off your neighbor's TV too if the signal was strong enough. Talk about unintentional trolling. 32. Now, on to something for the more active among us. The electric guitar. This iconic instrument was invented by George Beauchamp in 1931. It revolutionized music and gave us rock and roll. I think it's safe to say that without Beauchamp, music festivals would be a lot quieter. 33rd. Fun twist. The very first electric guitar was nicknamed the frying pan because of its shape. Who knew Rockin' Breakfast had something in common? 34. Here's one for the athletes. The first basketball was invented by James Naismith in 1891 as a way to keep his students active indoors during the winter. And yes, the first hoops were actual peach baskets. No backboards, no nets, just peaches. 35. Naismith also invented the rules of basketball in about an hour. Talk about a productive afternoon. 36. Let's shift to science. The inventor of the first polio vaccine, Dr. Jonas Salk, was an American scientist who made history in 1955. His work helped save millions of lives, and here's the kicker, he never patented his vaccine. When asked why, he famously said, "Could you patent the sun?" What a guy. 37. Speaking of saving lives, the defibrillator, yes, that life-saving machine that restarts your heart, was co-invented by an American, Dr. Paul Zoll, in the 1950s. And you thought those hospital dramas were intense. 38. If you love films, here's a fun one. The first motion picture camera was invented by Thomas Edison and William Kennedy Laurie Dixon in 1891. Edison actually envisioned a world where movies could provide entertainment for the masses. Looks like he nailed that one. 39. But it wasn't all serious work. Edison's team also experimented with making early films featuring vaudeville acts, dancing, and even cats. So yes, cat videos have been around for over a century. Moving on to food again. Did you know that canned condensed soup was invented by an American, John T. Dorrance, in 1897? His invention made soup easy to store and ship, and it laid the foundation for the Campbell Soup Company. Those iconic red and white cans? All thanks to Dorrance. 41. And here's a fun tidbit. Campbell's soup was so influential, it was even immortalized by pop artist Andy Warhol. Who knew soup could be so chic? 42. On the subject of comfort food, the inventor of chewing gum, Thomas Adams, first tried to make rubber from tree sap. When that didn't work out, he chewed on the material and realized it made a pretty good gum. Sometimes when life gives you rubber, you just chew it. 43rd. Let's not forget Richard Gatling, who invented the Gatling gun in 1862. He hoped it would make wars shorter because it was so effective that it might convince people to stop fighting. Spoiler. That didn't work out exactly as planned. 44. Moving away from warfare, let's talk about comfort. Bill Bowerman, co-founder of Nike, invented the modern running shoe's waffle sole by pressing rubber into his wife's waffle iron. So, if you're wearing Nikes right now, they've got a waffle to thank. 45. One for the safety conscious. The first practical traffic light was invented by Garrett Morgan, an African-American inventor, in 1923. His design included a third warning position to keep cars and pedestrians safe. Now you know who's responsible for all those stoplights you hit on your morning commute. 46. And speaking of driving, let's not forget the seatbelt. The modern three-point seatbelt was co-invented by American engineer Niels Bohlin in the 1950s. Before that, car safety wasn't exactly a high priority. But thanks to him, seatbelts have saved countless lives. 47th. Fun fact, the modern seatbelt wasn't initially popular with car manufacturers. They thought it would scare off buyers. Now we can't imagine driving without one. 48. Here's a lighter one. The first popsicle was invented by accident by an 11-year-old boy named Frank Epperson in 1905. He left a cup of soda mix with a stick in it outside overnight. And voila, frozen treat. Kids and their snacks, right? 49. And for a cool fact, air conditioning wasn't the only invention aimed at making summer more bearable. The Super Soaker, one of the most popular water guns ever, was invented by Lonnie Johnson, an American engineer, in 1989. Imagine testing that invention. Must have been a splashy success. 50. Let's talk about another sweet invention, the chocolate chip cookie. It was invented by Ruth Wakefield in 1938. She ran out of baker's chocolate and substituted broken pieces of a Nestlé chocolate bar into her dough. And boom, an American dessert legend was born. Also, a big win for cookie lovers everywhere. 51. Fun fact, Wakefield sold her recipe to Nestlé in exchange for a lifetime supply of chocolate. Now that's a deal. 52. Here's one for the tech lovers. The first computer mouse was invented by American engineer Douglas Engelbart in 1964. His original design was made out of wood, and it had only one button. Can you imagine navigating your computer today with a single button mouse? 53. And here's a twist. Engelbart actually wanted to call it the XY position indicator for a display system. Yeah, mouse was definitely a better choice. 54. On the subject of computers, Grace Hopper, an American computer scientist, invented the first compiler, which translates human-readable code into machine code. She also popularized the term debugging when a literal moth was found inside a computer, causing a malfunction. So next time your computer crashes, you can thank Grace for at least giving us the right word for it. 55th. Let's take a look at video games. The very first home video game console, the Magnavox Odyssey, was invented by American engineer Ralph Baer in 1972. This console was the beginning of what would become a massive global industry. 56. Baer's games were super basic though. Think tennis, but with dots and lines. No Fortnite or Call of Duty here. 57. If you're into photography, you can thank George Eastman, the founder of Kodak, who invented the first roll film in 1888. His invention made photography affordable and accessible to everyone. Before that, taking a picture was a huge ordeal involving glass plates and chemicals. Imagine trying to take a selfie with that setup. 58. Here's one that might surprise you. The modern escalator wasn't just for transportation. It was originally intended as an amusement park ride. When Jesse Reno debuted his first escalator in 1895, it was more of a novelty than a convenience. 59. And honestly, can you imagine paying for a ticket to ride up and down escalators? Different times, my friends. 60. On a more serious note, let's talk medical breakthroughs again. The blood bank was pioneered by American doctor Charles Drew in the 1940s. His work revolutionized the storage and transfusion of blood, saving countless lives in the process. 61. Drew's innovations were so crucial that they became a major factor in saving lives during World War II. 62. Speaking of lifesavers, the Heimlich maneuver was invented by American surgeon Henry Heimlich in 1974. It's helped save people from choking all over the world. And let's be honest, who hasn't had that moment of panic while eating too fast? 63. Here's an everyday item with a surprising history. The first roll of toilet paper was produced by an American inventor named Joseph Gaiety in 1857. Before that, people used all sorts of rough alternatives, like corn cobs. Thank you, Mr. Gaiety, for making life a bit more comfortable. 64. Speaking of comfort, the electric blanket was invented by American physician Sidney Russell in 1912. His invention was originally used to help patients with circulation problems, but today, it's a cozy staple for cold winter nights. Who knew staying warm could be so high-tech? 65. If you've ever enjoyed a cold drink, you can thank Jacob Perkins for inventing the refrigerator. The American inventor patented the first practical refrigeration system in 1835. Before that, people had to rely on ice to keep their food fresh. And let's be honest, we've all taken that cool fridge breeze on a hot day. 66. And for those caffeine lovers out there, the automatic drip coffee maker was invented by American businessman Vincent Marotta in 1972. He co-founded the Mr. Coffee brand, and his machine revolutionized how people brewed their morning cup of joe. 67th. Fun fact, baseball legend Joe DiMaggio was the spokesperson for Mr. Coffee. Who knew coffee and sports had such a connection? 68. Here's one that'll make you see the world differently. The modern contact lens was invented by American optometrist Kevin Twohy in 1948. His invention gave millions of people the chance to ditch their glasses and enjoy clear vision without the frames. 69. And just for fun, early contact lenses were made of glass. Can you imagine putting glass in your eyes? No thanks. 70th. Let's jump into the world of sound. The phonograph, the first device to record and play back sound, was invented by none other than Thomas Edison in 1877. It was his personal favorite invention, and it paved the way for all the music players we use today. 71st. Fun twist. The first thing Edison ever recorded was himself reciting "Mary Had a Little Lamb." Talk about making history. 72. And here's a loud fact. The first loudspeaker was invented by American electrical engineer Chester W. Rice in 1925. His invention brought music and sound to public spaces like never before, making concerts and events a whole lot louder. 73. On a smaller scale, let's not forget about hearing aids. The first electronic hearing aid, the Acousticon, was invented by Miller Reese Hutchison in 1898. This invention gave millions of people the ability to hear more clearly, transforming their lives. 74. Speaking of transforming lives, the invention of Braille printers, which allow the blind to read written language, was pioneered by American engineer David Abraham in 1951. Thanks to him, accessibility in reading took a huge leap forward. 75. And now for something fun. The Slinky. This iconic toy was invented by American naval engineer Richard James in 1943 when he accidentally knocked a spring off a shelf, and it walked down to the floor. A classic toy was born, all because of a happy accident. 76. On the subject of childhood, the first teddy bear was created by American toy makers Morris Mictum and his wife in 1902, after they were inspired by a cartoon of President Theodore Teddy Roosevelt refusing to shoot a bear cub. Hence the name, Teddy Bear. 77. If you've ever spent hours building with Lego bricks, you can thank American inventor Hilary Fisher Page for creating a precursor to the Lego in the 1930s. His interlocking building cubes laid the foundation for the toy company to follow. 78. And speaking of timeless toys, the Frisbee was invented by American Walter Morrison in 1948. He originally called it the Pluto Platter, but the name was changed later. Who knew throwing a plastic disc could become such a global pastime? We're over 3/4 of the way there. Which invention has surprised you the most so far? Drop a comment below and let's keep going. 79. The first video game ever, Pong, was created by American computer scientist Nolan Bushnell in 1972. This simple two-dimensional tennis game launched the entire video game industry. Today's gaming culture owes a lot to those two bouncing squares. 80. Fun fact: Pong was so popular that the first machine put in a bar actually broke because it got jammed with quarters. Now that's a good problem to have. 81. Here's a modern invention we use daily: Wi-Fi. While Wi-Fi itself was a global effort, an American, Vic Hayes, is often called the father of Wi-Fi for helping develop the standards that make wireless internet possible. Imagine your life without Wi-Fi. No thanks. 82. Speaking of internet, here's a fun one. Email was invented by American computer programmer Ray Tomlinson in 1971. He's also the one who introduced the @ symbol to the world. Just think, every time you send an email, you're using a piece of history. 83. Jumping into medicine again, the pacemaker wasn't the only heart-related invention. The artificial heart was first successfully implanted in a human by American surgeon Dr. Barney Clark in 1982. This groundbreaking procedure changed the course of medicine, keeping patients alive while they waited for heart transplants. 84. Now for some clean energy. The first practical solar cell was developed by Bell Labs in 1954, and while it was a team effort, American engineer Darrell Chapin was one of the key figures behind it. Solar power is everywhere now, but back then, it was a groundbreaking idea. 85. If you've ever used a microwave, you can thank American engineer Percy Spencer. He discovered the technology behind it by accident in 1945 when a chocolate bar in his pocket melted while he was working on radar equipment. So next time you're heating up leftovers, remember? It all started with melted chocolate. 86. And speaking of everyday kitchen items, the modern dishwasher was invented by Josephine Cochran in 1886. Tired of having her fine china chipped by her servants, she designed a machine to do the washing. Little did she know, she was making life easier for households everywhere. 87. Let's talk safety again. The fire alarm was invented by Francis Robbins Upton, a partner of Thomas Edison, in 1890. His invention made homes and businesses much safer from the threat of fire, and it's still a crucial part of home safety today. 88. And here's another invention we rely on every day: the photocopier. It was invented by American physicist Chester Carlson in 1938. His invention revolutionized offices everywhere, making copying documents fast and efficient. Just imagine if we still had to hand copy everything. 89. Time to get serious again. The first fully functional artificial kidney was developed by Dr. Willem Kolff, a Dutch-American inventor, in 1943. This invention has saved countless lives by allowing patients to undergo dialysis and live longer, healthier lives. 90. The artificial skin, used for treating burn victims, was developed by American scientists John F. Burke and Ioannis Yannis in 1981. This medical breakthrough has helped countless people recover from severe burns. Let's move on to the skies. Air travel wouldn't be the same without the work of American inventor Elmer Sperry, who developed the first gyroscopic autopilot system in 1912. His invention made flying safer and helped airplanes stay on course automatically. 92. For those who love outdoor adventures, here's a fun one. The first modern zipper was invented by Gideon Sunback in 1913, a Swedish-American inventor. The zipper has become such an everyday essential, we barely think about it, but it was a game-changer in fashion and practicality. 93. Here's a life-saving invention. Kevlar, the material used in bulletproof vests, was invented by American chemist Stephanie Kwolek in 1965. This super-strong fiber has been crucial in saving lives in law enforcement and the military. 94. For all the thrill seekers, did you know the roller coaster was invented in America? Lamarcus Adna Thompson is known as the father of the American roller coaster and created the first one at Coney Island in 1884. His invention has since evolved into one of the most thrilling rides at amusement parks worldwide. 95. Let's get back to the kitchen. The garbage disposal, a handy device for dealing with food waste, was invented by American architect John Hams in 1927. It saved countless hours of kitchen cleanup time and reduced landfill waste. 96. And here's a refreshing one. The modern ice cream cone was popularized at the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. While several people claim to have invented it, one of the leading stories is that an American waffle vendor and an ice cream seller teamed up to create the first cone. A match made in dessert heaven. 97. Speaking of snacks, potato chips were invented by American chef George Crumb in 1853. Frustrated by a customer who kept sending back his fried potatoes for being too thick, Crumb sliced them paper thin, fried them to a crisp, and the potato chip was born. 98. Now, let's talk comfort. The modern recliner was invented by two American cousins, Edward Nabush and Edwin Shoemaker, in 1928. Their creation has been providing us with cozy seating for nearly a century. Who doesn't love a good recliner? 99. Here's a high-tech one. The Global Positioning System, GPS, was developed by the U.S. Department of Defense in the 1970s. It started as a military tool, but today, it's used by people all over the world to navigate everything from road trips to grocery runs. 100. If you've ever made a phone call from anywhere besides your house, you can thank American inventor Martin Cooper, who made the first handheld mobile phone call in 1973. His work paved the way for the smartphones we rely on today. Can you imagine a world without mobile phones? 101. And now, for the most impressive fact, the moon landing. The entire Apollo program, which put a man on the moon in 1969, was a triumph of American engineering and innovation. The team at NASA, with astronauts like Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, made history and showed the world that the sky isn't the limit. Space is. It was one of the greatest achievements in human history. And there you have it, 101 incredible facts about American inventors. Which fact surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content like this.